Planning, and we're here to do our final meeting, I guess really our final meeting for our hazard mitigation plan. And what I want to do is I just want to show you some of the things that we've done. I want to talk to you about some of the things that we're going to ask you to do to hopefully take us across the finish line. And then I want to talk to you a little bit about the future. As always, you can always ask me anything during any presentation here. So if you've got any questions, comments, concerns, and you want to know anything, please don't hesitate to tell me. Two ways you can do it. You can use the chat functionality, which I'm not always great at catching, or you can simply unmute yourself and say, hey, Matt, what do we think about this? Let's talk a little bit more about this. So this should be a fairly quick, fairly simple meeting discussing as to how we've made some changes to the plan and what we expect you to do. So with no further ado, unless there's any questions to start off, let's go ahead and dive in. So this is who's participating in our plan. This is what our cover looks like. We've got a December 2024 local hazard mitigation plan update, and it's encompassing all of these jurisdictions. Now, of particular note on this is the addition of McLeod Community Services District, Lake Shastina Community Services District, and Happy Camp Community Services District. Now, before, about 3-4 weeks ago, we had these as what we called non-adopting jurisdictions or participating stakeholder communities. However, it has subsequently come to light that the state of California now is bidding their hazard mitigation plans in a little bit of a different way. And the little bit of a different way is they say at the beginning of the process, how many jurisdictions are you going to have in there? And if you come in under that number, then you have to go back to the grant process and renegotiate. And so we just found this out that they are now making that a requirement. And as such, rather than having participating stakeholder communities, we have considered these 3 community services districts now to be adopting jurisdictions. Nothing has to be done by them. Everything is taken care of. We just switched their flavor over. And so now they will have to adopt the plan when it becomes approved. And it is a no problem process for adoption. But in order to get this through and in order to get our grant funding for this project, we were kind of forced to make that switch. And I was a little bit I don't know what the word is, but it was interesting to hear this late in the game that that is actually a grant requirement and that they didn't mention that earlier on in the process. However, we pivoted and everything is okay with this. We're on the right side of the grant, and so we'll get our full grant funding for the project. But that is something new, and truthfully, I've never seen it done anywhere in the United States, and I think it is very, very new to California as well. So we wanted to make sure we were on the right side of that. And in order to be on the right side of that, we've now got our community services districts as adopting jurisdictions. Again, they jumped through all the hoops. They did everything they had to do. So we have no problem with that. Now, we also made a couple other changes based on our conversation I had with Cal OES. One of the things that we wrote historically in your plans was we would like to see our jurisdictions incorporate the hazard mitigation plan into other future planning efforts, and we made a list of them. Cal OES made a note and they said, well, what we'd really like to see is, did any of our participating jurisdictions look at the hazard mitigation plan for any previous plan updates they did? And so what we did is we took a look at any plans that are either being revised or are in progress, or any elements of plans or plans that were completed in the last 5 years. And we said, hey, we think that the hazard mitigation plan was probably at least glanced at to complete these plans. And you'll see that we've got housing element updates, and we've got the circulation element of a general plan. We have got the Wairika general plan, which is in progress, the Siskiyou County general plan, which is in progress. We've got the Dunsmuir 6-cycle housing element of the Dunsmuir general plan. We've got a zoning code from Dunsmuir and a 2024 active transportation plan. We'll send this out to you, but the idea was the hazard mitigation plan, the previous hazard mitigation plan, was likely and hopefully referenced in respect to creating these plans. And so we wanted to note that in the plan because Cal OES was very, very big on that. If this is not the case, it's okay to say that's not the case and say, hey, look, we didn't have any plans identified that we use the hazard mitigation plan to inform. For example, Happy Camp Community Services District has had no plan updates that we could find in the past 5, 6 years. And so we said, hey, we didn't identify any that Happy Camp incorporated in the previous hazard mitigation plan. And that's fine to say, but we do want to show, is it possible that the plan was used for updating a plan somewhere along the line? And so that's what this represents. And this is something new to the plan subsequent to our discussion with Cal OES about our submission of the plan. Another new thing in our plan, and this is something that we do all along, but this is our public comment. And what we do is we try to put in and highlight public comments that we've received in sections of the plan to say, hey, this is how we've identified the public comment, this is what it's related to, and this is how we've hopefully addressed it. And you'll see now throughout the plan, we've got these public comments laced into the plan in relevant sections. Now, under our capabilities assessment, one of the things that we asked you to do was submit your ISO rating. And that is your basic fire rating. We got a new one from Fort Jones, and so we've incorporated that in there. And these are the jurisdictions that we have the ISO rating from. If you have an ISO rating and would like us to include it in there, please just email me and we'll make sure that we drop it in there so you have that inclusion. Another new part, and this was something that we had kind of tried to lace in, but again, Cal OES wanted to see this as a standalone table, and we were very, very happy to work with them on that. This is our NFIP administrators, our National Flood Insurance Program administrators, and this is for our jurisdictions that are NFIP participants. And what we did is we tried to discover who your NFIP administrator was for your jurisdiction. Now, if this is incorrect, we'd like you to tell us. We tried to contact the state of California to find out if they had a master list, and we couldn't find one. That doesn't mean that we've stopped. We're going to make a couple more calls today to see what we can do, but we couldn't find one to date of a master floodplain administrator for each of our jurisdictions. And so we cast about and said, this is who we think it is. Again, if this is incorrect, just let us know and we will update the plan for it. We're very, very happy to do so. But this was a suggested inclusion by Cal OES. Another thing that we found universally.
Hey, Matt.
Yeah.
Will's got his hand up.
Hey, Will, I'm sorry, I didn't see that. Will, how can I help?
What is an NFIP administrator?
So a requirement for being a member of the National Flood Insurance Program is you have to have an administrator that oversees all elements of that program. We found generally that unless you have a standalone administrator, it tends to be someone from your building department, whether that be a code enforcement officer or your building department director. And so it's part and parcel of a requirement of being an NFIP a community to have one. It is distinctly possible that your NFIP administrator may be someone from the county itself. And that's okay too. We just want to identify who it is. Now you'll see that for Weed, for example, for Montague, we've got vacant because in general terms, the feeling was it's likely their code enforcement officer who is also their administrator, and that position is vacant. Will, did that answer your question?
It did. Thank you.
You got it. Happy to help. Now, one of the things we also found universally from the comments from folks when they reviewed the plan was, hey, the maps, the icons are a little bit small. So we took the liberty of redoing all the maps and increasing the size of the icons in there so that it's just a little bit easier to read. And any of the maps in the plan that we received comment on, whether it was, hey, we'd like it a little bit like this or a little bit like that, if we could make those changes, we made those changes so the maps were more usable, more readable for everybody. And so again, that's a universal change throughout the plan. And then, of course, our mitigation strategy. We received from a lot of you, and thank you so very much, updates to your mitigation actions. The things that if someone handed your community a bag of money to make your community safer and more resilient, what would you use that money for? And so we received a lot of those back from you, and we made sure that we made those changes for you. Now, the good news for this is that remember that going forward, even after plan approval and adoption, it is perfectly okay to come in and either modify or add additional actions to your existing mitigation actions. So if something pops up, let's say that you get a public partner, private, ooh, the words are hard this morning, a public private partnership funding availability to do a project, and you would like to dovetail that potentially with mitigation grants, we can always amend the plan to include those projects in here. Additionally, and again, as part of the requirements, we had to make sure that all of our participating jurisdictions had mitigation action items in there. And so for McLeod and Lake Shastina Community Services District, we translated your actions from the previous plan forward to this, and then we made any additions that we thought were necessary to make sure that you had full coverage. For Happy Camp, we did the same thing. And again, we wanted to make sure that you had actions in there to meet the spirit of the requirements of this plan. Okay. The big reason I have you all here today is this, for the public feedback section. As you all may recall, we released a survey and set it out online, on social media, everywhere we could put it, to get public feedback on the draft version of the plan. To date, we have 13 responses, which quite truthfully isn't very great. We would like to blow that up as much as possible. And so, if possible, we would like it if you would send this link out to all, well, heck, anybody with a pulse, spouse, wife, husband, significant other, roommate, kid, grandfather, I don't care. But if you could get this survey out to anybody who's got a pulse to fill this out, we would be grateful. And again, we use these comments to augment the plan and to put notes in the plan that says, hey, we've heard from the community and we're addressing community concerns. That's a very big part of what we want to do with this plan. And so if you could get this out to folks, if you could get this link out to folks and have them fill it out in the next couple of days, we would be very, very grateful to you. We would like to see this number increase, well, maybe exponentially over the next couple of days, if possible. Now, the final thing that I wanted to talk about today was next steps. And the next steps is simply this. We've been in communication as we're at the end of the process with Cal OES. Understandably, they're very busy folks at this juncture. And so we submitted a date to submit our plan. And that date is December 9th, 2024. That'll be next Monday that we will submit our plan to Cal OES for review. Up to that date, we can make any changes, additions, whatever it may be possible. We're hoping to get more public comments in there. We will put that into the plan as the very last thing we do. But up until that December 9th date, the plan is still open and able to be amended in any way. Once we submit it to Cal OES, we fully expect that they will come back with some requests. Although they have reviewed a draft version of our plan, we expect that they will come back and say, well, we'd like this or we'd like to change this. And we absolutely will work with them to do that. Once those changes have been made, we will then submit our plan to FEMA for their review and approval. And we're hoping that that is a fairly streamlined process. Usually, if Cal OES approves a plan, FEMA is pretty good about saying, hey, we trust these folks, and they're pretty good about seeing it through. But again, there's no guarantee that FEMA will not say, hey, we'd like to see a couple changes or additions. And again, we will happily do so. Now, the FEMA review itself, they've got 45 business days to be able to review the plan. And it would surprise me if they did not use all 45 of them. Having submitted a bunch of plans around the country recently, they are using all 45 days and sometimes more to review the plans. And so if that tracker record holds true, that's what we're expecting. Cal OES, I'm not truthfully sure on how long they're going to take to review it. Again, they've seen a draft version of the plan, so they know what's coming. And we've been working with them fairly closely to put some of their requests in the plan to make sure that we are meeting what they would like. But again, I'm not sure what their time period for review is going to be. Again, we want to get this done as quickly as possible, get the plan approved as quickly as possible, so you can adopt as quickly as possible. And then we're again eligible for any kind of grant coverage. So those are our remaining schedule steps. We'll keep you apprised as to how things are going. Once we submit to Cal OES, we'll keep you apprised as to how that review process is going. Again, we'll do the same thing with FEMA, although FEMA is usually a fairly locked box when they're reviewing. For those 45 days, it's very rare that you hear anything. You only hear from FEMA once they have hopefully approved that plan. And then again, once that plan is approved, we'd like you to get it on your schedule, your adopting jurisdiction schedule, whether that be your town council or your city mayor or the board of directors, whatever it may be. We'd like you to get it on that schedule for that adoption. Okay, as promised, this was a pretty short, pretty quick meeting, but I'd like to open it up to questions or discussions, things that I can answer for you or things that you'd like to see more of or discuss more of. Well, go ahead. How can I help?
Can you email the link for the survey so we'll get it up on our social media sites?
100%. I will ask Owen to do that, to send the link out to everybody and pop it up on social media accounts. So absolutely we'll get that out to you so you can hopefully shake a couple trees and get some folks to fill that survey out. Thank you, Will.
Yep, we'll
Also,
have that survey out by 10.
okay, and I emailed our general manager on that question about the NFIP. He said, good question. Are we required to have one? Is the area below the dam considered a floodplain, which I believe it is?
Well, so, Will, the question, what I'd have to check is, and I apologize for not knowing this off the top of my head, I'd have to check to see if you're an NFIP community. And off the top of my head, I want to say Lake Shastina is not an NFIP community, in which case then the NFIP coordinator would not be relevant to you.
Yeah, well, it's this all new to me too, but I used to work in planning, so I there are sections of the subdivision along the lake, and then of course below the dam itself. I know FEMA did identify because it would pop up when people would put in building permits, and then they'd have to get flood insurance, and they'd flip their you know what over it. So
Yes, of course.
there are parts of our
Let me
community.
check and make sure, and if so, we can circle back to that. Again, we can circle back to that. Let me check the plan and see, and I'll also check the NFIP Community Status Book. That is the FEMA Master Status Book of all participating jurisdictions, and I'll give that a good scrub too to make sure, you know, I'll dot my I's and cross my T's on that for you, Will.
Yeah, our general manager just brought up another point. He used to work in planning with me. He said, I believe it would be somebody in the county level, probably in the county building department. So,
Fantastic. Thanks, Will.
all right, thank you.
Other questions, comments, concerns, anything that I can answer for you? Gosh, I'm sharing all sorts of junk here on my screen. I apologize. Okay, so that is our meeting in whole. In whole. Again, for anybody that would like to call me and talk about anything specific, or maybe more importantly, if anybody would like to call me and take a look at specific parts of the plan, we can set up a Zoom meeting and we can go over really anything that you would like to. If you'd like me to email you anything or send you any particular notes or sections or anything like that, again, please do not hesitate to let me know. I'm glad to share anything with you. And more importantly, I'm glad to discuss anything with you. So please do not hesitate to let me know. Finally, please keep in mind that we will be submitting the plan next Monday to Cal OES. So again, we are wide open for any changes, reviews, anything that you want to do in the interim. I'd be more than happy to make any kind of accommodations that I can, because remember, this is not, you know, not just one jurisdiction's plan. This is all of our plans. And so I want the plan to reflect that inclusiveness. Other than that, that's what I've got for you. As always, let me show you my contact information here. And where'd my mouse go? There it is. Scroll on down here. There is my contact information. So again, you can call me, you can email me, you can text me, you can really reach out to me anyway, and I will be happy to get back to you and talk to you about anything in this plan. Otherwise, Owen, anything else from you?
Nothing on our end. Thank you for everybody coming and participating in the meeting.
Okay. And anything from anybody else? All right. Fantastic. Again, thank you so much for coming today. Thank you so much for participating so fully in this process. We couldn't have done this plan without you. And I think the plan is better for all the folks who have laid eyes on it, better for all the folks who have made suggestions for improvement. I really think that we've got a great plan here, and I'm grateful for all the effort that all of you put in. I hope you all have a great day. And again, if you need me, reach out and get me. Happy to talk.